Hi, Jim. Thanks for doing this today. Very busy day for you. Just your thoughts overall on what you were able to accomplish and where you think your team is at after the signings that you made.
Yeah, well, I think it started going into the expansion draft, and adding Jason Dickinson to our group. We're excited to do that. And then from there, the draft, we're happy, with the picks we made in the draft. And then, getting that trade done to add, we feel a top 9 forward in Connor Garland and, a top defenseman in OEL. We're happy we got that accomplished. And then, in free agency, trying to add to our group. I think over the last 10 days now, we've added 16 new players to our organization. And I think we got younger, we got faster, we wanted to get bigger on the back end, and we accomplished those things.
And particularly an emphasis on right shooting defensemen today. When you look at the depth chart there, how do you see, Hamonic fitting in as well? Like, is Pullman a top 4 guy in your mind, or how do you see that shaking out?
That's going to be determined at training camp. I think we have good competition from within. All 4 of those guys on the right side are experienced guys. And we're going to have, I think, a real competitive training camp, and we'll just see whoever, deserves to be on the team and deserves ice time will get to play. So, and talking to, some of these guys, it's going to be, just come in and be ready to go. And I think we have good depth, even, some of the signings that we're going to come out later on today with our, depth guys that are going to be in maybe Abbotsford and stuff. I really like the depth that we have in our group now.
Okay, we'll go next to Ben Kuzma, Post Media. Ben, go ahead.
A couple from me, Jim. You obviously had some options to look at for a backup goaltending position. Halak didn't have a great year, but he's won a couple Jennings trophies. He's run hot and cold, but he's also been there and done that, Jim. Why did Halak make the most sense to you?
Well, that's, Ian is our director of goaltending, and, we kind of go to him with, what he wants to do in that position. And Yaroslav was a guy he wanted. He has experience. He's played a long time in the league. Like you said, he's had, a lot of success through the years. And we just think it's a good fit with Thatcher that, we have an experienced guy. And, when he's available, he wanted to come to Vancouver and be part of our group. So we're excited that he signed with us.
When you look at your back end and your signings today, Jim, I know it's a training camp equation, but as a general manager, do you think you've improved your back end?
Yeah, I do. Like, we wanted to get bigger back there, more physical, on the left side with OEL and Quinn and, maybe Jack Rathbone. He has a good camp. He played well for us at the end of the year. We got some mobility, some guys that can get back and turn the puck up ice. And, I think we tried to identify some guys that would be good fits maybe with their style of game. And, on the right side, now we got some physical guys that, we feel are good defensive players to help support them.
Next up is Farhan Lalji, TSN.
Jim, with Pullman specifically, certainly there hasn't been a lot of offense there to this point. And the numbers showed that when he got elevated into a top 4 role, even though he played a lot of minutes, that there were some times when he struggled. What did you see in his game that convinced you he was worth, 4 years and that much?
Well, he has good mobility. He's a big kid, good mobility. I thought he had a real good season this year as far as, being a good defensive player. He's long, he's got a good stick. He can move the puck, and we just feel like, with the players we have on the left side, he can complement their games. So, he's a guy that we've been watching for a while, and, to be able to add him to our group, we just think there'll be a good mix on the back end.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, with the goaltending, Halak's bonuses are very reachable. The 10 games and the save percentage numbers. So assuming eventually he becomes a $3 million player, do you feel like you saved enough, in terms of getting off Braden's number, because a certain amount of Braden's money, because you guys retained, on the buyout, I should say, will be applied next year, along with the bonus money from Halak will be applied next year. Does the financial ramifications of that concern you at all heading into 2022-23?
Yeah, well, part of the thinking involved in that is we wanted to provide the cap flexibility. We still have, 4 more players to sign, including, Quinn and Petey. We got, Jason Dickinson and Ulevy to sign yet, but, we've created a lot of cash, a lot of cap now space. So, if there's an offer sheet or anything, we're going to match it on Petey. But, to be able to sign those guys, we wanted that cap flexibility. And, that was part of why we did that.
We'll go next to Thomas Drance at The Athletic.
We've chatted with you this week, and as you've laid out, your club's been extraordinarily busy. I want to go back to Monday and your club's decision to buy out Virtanen's contract. Are you able to provide an update on the status of your club's internal investigation? Has it concluded? And if it did it have any bearing on your decision to buy out that deal? And if it's ongoing, will it be concluded even though Virtanen is no longer a member of your club?
Yeah, that's still an ongoing investigation. The whole thing is an unfortunate situation. We haven't got anything back from the independent arbitrator yet that the team hired, but we made a decision that going forward that we're going to go in a different direction, and decided to buy Jake out.
And you've accomplished a lot between Dickinson all the way through to today. Is there a way, it's all sort of happened so quickly with so many different moving pieces. Is there a way that you draw a through line and explain to the fan base the overall view of what you've accomplished this offseason?
Yeah, well, we wanted to, first and foremost, get some cap flexibility. We did that. And we wanted to turn the team over. Now we have, if you look at our forward group, we're young. I think we got faster. We added, 2 top 9 forwards to our group. We added a top pairing defenseman in OEL. We got bigger and stronger on the back end. We got an experienced goalie. We'll have more signings come out later today. We've added good depth to our organization. Now, if we have injuries, we'll call players up from Abbotsford that'll step right in and help us. So, I think, we've worked hard the last couple of weeks, and I feel really good that our team's faster now. We're younger. We're going to be more physical on the back end, and, I'm excited, look forward to training camp and the start of the season.
Next up is Jay Janover, Global Sports.
Jim, I think we could all agree that you've made your team better up front, collectively, offensively. How much do you think Travis may coach this team differently now that you have more depth, you have more speed? Can we expect a different style of play?
No, I think we're going to play the same style of game that we've always played. But I think, we've given Travis more depth, more flexibility. We got players up front now that can play center, that can play the wing. He has more options. I think we've added to our skill level of our forward group. We should be a 4-line team. We should be able to play 4 lines, every night. And, we've added penalty killers, and the skill set of our group. So I think, the main thing we've done is added depth to our forward group and given him, a lot of different options to change things around if he wants to.
Jim, circling back on Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes, especially with Elias, where's your level of concern that perhaps somebody may sign him to an offer sheet?
Yeah, like now we have the cap flexibility. We'll match any offer sheet that he gets. And we still, have the ability to sign the guys that we haven't signed yet.
Next up, we'll go to Gemma Karsten-Smith, Canadian Press.
Hi, Jim. Thanks for doing this today. Can you talk a little bit about what free agency has been like this year, and especially compared to last year with the flat cap?
Yeah, well, we looked at it as like kind of a 10-day, 2-week process, starting with going into the expansion draft, going into the draft and then free agency. And, I guess the other part of that is making sure that, we can get our own players signed. So, it's kind of been a 2-week, the way we looked at it, it was 2 weeks to get everything done that we wanted to get done. And I think we were able to accomplish a lot of things. And so, now we got to work on getting Petey and Quinn and Jason Dickinson signed, Ole Levy signed. And then, if something else comes up, we'll still continue to look at it. But I feel pretty good about where we're at right now.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we'll go to Jeff Patterson, North Beach Sports.
Hey, Jim. Can you tell us the reasons for wanting to get a Klimovich deal done so quickly after the draft, and what are your plans for him next season?
Well, we did that right away, so we have, more control over, his future and what it looks like and where he's going to play. We're really excited that we're able to get him in the second round. He's a big kid. He's got a real good release on his shot. He protects the puck well. So when he was there for us in the second round, I think he's got a real big high side to his game. So, we signed him right away. So we have, control whether he plays in junior or he goes back home and plays. But, I think we have more control over the situation now.
Our first chance to talk to you since the Nate Schmidt trade. You appeared on a local talk show about 10 days ago and said Nate was positive in his exit interview and that it wasn't true that he wanted out of Vancouver and you weren't sure where those rumors started. And now he's in Winnipeg. What changed?
Well, I think, we're going to get Quinn signed here and we wanted to shift some money from our defensive group back up to our forward group. So, it wasn't anything more than that. Nate, played for us for 1 year. He played well for us. He played in a matchup role with Alex against the other team's top lines. But it was just kind of more that, we seen how much money we had on defense and we wanted to use that for our forwards.
Okay, we'll go next to Ian McIntyre, Sportsnet.
Hi, Jim. I know that you're not going to tell us any details about negotiations, but are you finding traction on these talks with Pettersson and Hughes? Are you getting closer to a deal, or should people be concerned that we're
I don't think people should be concerned. We're going to get these deals done. We've had constructive talks, with Pat Brisson and JP Barry about their clients. We're going to continue to work on those things. Like I always said, I don't comment on where we're at in negotiations, but I think they've been real positive and we're going to be able to figure them out.
And when we look at the changes that have been made, I don't think there's any argument about, a big upgrade at forward, especially with Dickinson and Garland. But when you look at your defense, you now have Ekman Larson instead of Edler, which seems like an upgrade, and you have Poolman instead of Schmidt, which on the surface seems like a downgrade. So is the group better as a six-man unit?
Yeah, I think as a six-man unit, I think we're better, Ian. Like we have, I think we have a good mix of guys that can get back and transition the puck up ice, with more stay-at-home, bigger, more physical guys. So, that'll be determined who plays with who at training camp, but I like the mix of the group we have.
Next up, we'll go to Daniel Wagner, Vancouver is Awesome.
Just looking at a couple of veteran players that you brought back, Brandon Sutter and Travis Hamonic, what was the thinking behind bringing those two back, and what role do you expect Sutter in particular to play?
Well, Brandon, when we talked to Travis, and he's an important player in our group. He's one of the leaders of our group. We had two other right shot players on the team, in Besser and Garland, and Brandon's a right shot player, so it gives him more options on faceoffs in our own end. He's a good penalty killer. We just felt like some of the guys we traded were kind of some veteran players that had a calming effect on our group, and I think having Brandon back is is good for our group, and he's well liked in the dressing room. And Travis Hamonic, I thought he played well for us last year. Travis, really wanted him back. He's a guy that plays a strong defensive game and can play with, had a good season with Quinn, and we'll see where he's going to end up this year. But, he's a proven top 4 NHL defenseman. So it was important that we got him re-signed and bring him back.
I wanted to circle back on something that was asked earlier. Just looking at the cap implications for 2022-23 for Halak and Holtby, just knowing that the buyout will have a $1.9 million cap hit for that season, and then Halak, if he hits his bonuses, could have a $1.5 million cap hit for that season. Is that a concern for you that you'll have that money on the books potentially in that season?
Yeah, but after this year, we lose Luongo's $3 million on our cap. So, it's not perfect. Of course, we wouldn't like to have that situation, but, I think, trying to make our team as good as we could this year and as competitive as we could, that's something that we looked at. And, it's just one of those things that, on any given year, you look at any team and there could be some dead money on, but the fact we're losing Luongo's money next year, I think played a part into, accepting the fact that we're going to have a little bit of money on the following year.
We'll take a few more questions here. We'll go next to Bick Nazar, Sportsnet 650.
Good afternoon, Jim. Thank you for doing this. By making the moves to open up the cap space and prepare for any threat of an offer sheet, you would assume any offer sheet would have term. If no offer sheet were to arrive, should the expectation then be you can sort out long-term deals on your own with Pettersson?
Yeah, we're in talks with, Pat and JP about, both the players. And, I don't know yet the term, what the term's going to look like, but we're going to continue to talk with them, work through it, and, figure out, what the players want to do and we want to do as an organization.
You talked a bit about Tucker Poolman. I'm just curious what the competition was like to sign him and why the faith to offer a 4-year deal for the player.
Well, I don't know what the competition was. When we talked to his agent at times, I think there's 12 teams that were in on him. We just think he's a good fit with our group. Like losing Chris Tanev a year ago, I thought hurt us because he was a good defensive player. He complemented, Quinn well. And we think that, in Tucker's game, he has some of that in him where he's mobile, he's long, he has a good stick, he's a good defensive player, and he can play with one of our puck movers on the back end and help complement their game.
Okay, we'll take our last 2 questions here. First, we'll go to Chris Faber, Canucks Army.
Jim, you mentioned signing Klimovic as well as potentially, having more control over him. Would it be a potential landing spot for him to be in Abbotsford this year? Or is that off the table?
Well, we've talked about it because he's a big, strong kid. We'll see. We'll see where he's at when he comes to training camp. We talked to his coach over in Minsk, Belarus, and he said that, he's going to be a top 6 forward for him and play in the KHL. That's an option for us. Or he's been drafted to New Rennes in the Quebec League, and, that's an option for us. So, we'll see where he's at. We'll continue to talk about it, and we'll try to figure out, where the best place for him to play in his development is this year.
And we've seen a lot of moves towards getting to the playoffs this season. The team's made a lot of improvements. How do you think you stack up against the rest of the Pacific Division, and should you be vying for the top spot?
Well, we're going to have 7 new players on the team. That's almost a third of our roster. So, Travis's training camp's going to be important. He's going to have to bring these guys together in a hurry and get them on the same page. And, it was a disappointing season for us last year. And we had to, I said I was going to be aggressive, and I think we have been aggressive, and we'll just have to see where that all plays out. But I want to be a playoff team next year and expect to be a playoff team.
And for our last question today, we'll go back to Ben Kuzma, Post Media.
Hey, Jim, Nate Schmidt held an availability this morning in Winnipeg, and he was sort of talking about the optics leading up to him arriving there. He said that he was never asked to put anything out there last year about a trade or asking her for a trade or asking to waive his no trade clause and go to Winnipeg. He said there was none of that. Is that accurate?
So I missed that. I don't understand the question, Ben.
Well, he said that he wanted to clarify the situation right from the get-go today, that he was never asked to put anything out there last year about asking for a trade, and or that you guys went to him and said, would you waive your no trade and go to Winnipeg? He said those conversations were never had.
Well, those are conversations that we have with his agent. So
Right.
we were dealing with Matt Cater. You know, we had talked to Matt, and we were in constant communication with Matt. We talked to him, you know, 3 or 4 times a day here this last couple weeks.
Right.
We explained to Matt what we were trying to do and that this could happen. You know, and Matt, you know, it was up to Matt to explain to Nate, you know, what we were thinking. So it's true we didn't have conversations with Nate, but, you know, we were in constant communication with his agent, Matt Cater.